World Arena Season 16 is coming to an end, and you guys know what that means, right? Balance patch should be just around the corner. Now, Com2uS for a couple years now has been trying to do balance patches in between World Arena seasons, which I've mentioned in previous videos, but people apparently didn't understand what I was saying. They even came out again, and it's already been a thing. The only thing that was kind of throwing it off sometimes is like SWC, right? They even came out again and mentioned it again in the dev note where they were talking to one of the Korean guild leaders about, yes, we're doing balance patches on, like, we want to make sure that we're doing balance patches on a regular schedule in between World Arena seasons so it doesn't disrupt anything in World Arena. So, balance patch should be just around the corner. So I thought today let's do a video outlining what I think needs to get buffed in the next balance patch. And yes, Trinity owners, Trinity is on here. Calm down. I read the comments. I was reading so many of the comments from the last. I can't believe it. So as I mentioned, I did go through the one that we did 3 months ago, where we were talking about how badly Ariel needs to get buffed, and Com2uS did buff Ariel. And a lot of the ones that we had concerns about, they actually buffed in that balance patch, which is great. That means that they're actually listening to the community, which I appreciate. I think they should be commended for actually trying to listen and adjust things. I would say that there's still monsters that need to be adjusted, and some of those that got adjusted need to be adjusted more, but at least they were putting, like, they were showing that they were trying, right? So, I did go through and I read a lot of the comments. A lot of the comments made sense. Some of them pointed out things that I didn't mention that also do need buffs. Like, for example, the Gargoyles here. Some of them were just like, I want this monster to get buffs. Like, that's already OP. You don't need that to get buffed. That's very OP monster already. You're being ridiculous now. Some of you guys are ridiculous. I'm just saying, some of you guys have good things to say. But some of you guys also like, and you know you want the things that you, the LD shinies that are already very strong. You're like, I just want it to be stronger. I don't even care. I don't care if it needs a buff. Buff it again. Buff it again. Okay, so we're going to start off with the Gargoyles, which I don't think were on the last video, but definitely need a buff. They are very slow, and they're defense-based units, which means if they take a defense break, they die. If they, I mean, it's hard for them to get turns initially. If they take a defense break, they die. If they get ignored defense, they die. Ignored defense is very strong, so generally defense units are very tricky to use on defense in general. And then a couple of them you can, like, for example, this one, this wind one right here, you can use in RTA. You can use in a few different places. Right? The wind one needs to get, he doesn't really need a buff. He's kind of in a good spot. But the other ones, what is the water? I keep forgetting what the water one does. I have him 6-starred. I keep forgetting what he does because I genuinely don't care about him, right? So these definitely need some buffs. There was a recommendation. Well, they just did this guy Hall of Heroes. I mean, this guy also has promise. However, he can still use a little tweak, not change him completely to something else, because this is, you know, it's still pretty cool. It's just hard for them to get turns with 93 base speed. Might be interesting. Now, I actually read this on a different comment talking about a different unit, but it kind of makes sense in here that these might actually be a decent buff for them. Might just be to have them start in stone state. So that could be a buff already. So just considering, I mean, actually, some of them may be too OP if they're in stone state at the beginning, right? But potentially could be a nice buff to them. Maybe tweak it so that it's not anything too crazy if they start in stone state. But that would make sense if their base speed is so low. And these units are kind of just nowhere in the meta at all. They're on the newer side of the Nat 4 spectrum. And a decent amount of you commented, like, you forgot the Gargoyles. They're not useful at all, right? Cool looking units, but they're just not really used. Next up on the list, if we're talking about new units that need buffs, String Masters. These girls, not really. I mean, aside from the light and dark ones you do see used every... You don't see used because not that many people have them, but they are better than the other ones. The fire one is just a weaker version of... I mean, you compare her to Megan, you compare her to Bastet, things like that. I know people have said, like, oh, just use her with Diana. That's a way too niche of a place to be just, you know, you use this with Diana. And then makes Diana a little bit better, but Diana's already good. She doesn't need to be used necessarily specifically with Hongyan. It just would be nice to have, and these also suffer from low base speed, 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 right? So they already suffer. This one's an attack bar booster with low base speed. She's not as good as Bastet. If people have her and people have Bastet, there's no reason they're not going to use Bastet. That's just how it is. They're not gonna use one instead of the other. And someone from the comments mentioned. And again, this is not my suggestion. This is someone from the comments that mentioned it, and I kind of applied this to the Gargoyles too. If they started out in playing the song at the beginning of the turn, that would be potentially a buff, right? That would be potentially a decent buff to all of them, especially like this water one, which the water one's actually the best of the normal elements already, because the water one does something that really nothing else does. It's not even the block beneficial effects as a debuff. It's the block beneficial effects just while she's playing the song, period. If she just started out with this, that would be phenomenal. She would absolutely be meta if she just started the match playing the song. That would be enough of a buff. And then you could just ruin them. You don't have to worry too much about the speed on them, right? Because then you want them to stay in song playing state as much as possible. And then even increase the duration of the song, because the duration of the song playing state is not very long. Like, for example, if you put Violent Runes on and then you get one proc, it's terrible. So it's kind of hard to use these girls just in general. The water one is pretty good though. I do like the water one, but these things would be so much better if they started out playing the songs at the beginning of the match. So I'm just kind of defer to that comment. That suggestion from someone in the comments that had a very good suggestion, but I think that also applies to maybe these and the Gargoyles as well. This one is just yuck. Oh, I mean, I built these all. The water one I used. The water one I could use no problem. I don't know, man. I hate this one. She's, in my opinion, one of the worst Nat 4s. The light and dark ones are pretty cool. I don't have them. I haven't played with them, but I've seen people that have them and enjoy them and play with them quite nicely. Because one of them, this one, right? The awesome with Lucian, right? Guild War leader skill too, for speed. Fantastic combo unit. But anyway, yeah, these String Masters, they definitely need to be taken a look at. You know what? We're just going right down the list again. These Poison Masters / Dalseems, we already talked about them in the last one. Basically, the same still applies. They're new units. They're supposed to be very hyped. They're not really useful too many places. Kyle is fine. Kyle is lovely, and he's wonderful, and I enjoy Kyle, and he's perfectly great. Water Dalseem, Kyle, same unit, right? Same unit. Water Dalseem, great. Kyle's great. Those units are very fun to use. These other ones... Jarrett and Todd, not really too exciting. This Heckerson, which is also the Light Dalseem, he really should be more of a DPS unit, in my opinion. This Resistance Dungeon Leader skill is not really the thing that I would want for him. I would use him in Guild Wars, but he would need to do more damage. That's where I see him. The Cade and Dark Dalseem, perfectly fine. No buffs needed. Already lovely. For some of these, the Dungeon Leader skills doesn't make really sense for these guys. I would do PvP Leader skills for these. But, yeah, this guy needs more. This guy is not very exciting. He's fine. Kyle's fine. And then this one just needs to be a DPS unit. Next up, and I don't want to go through every single one of these Nat 4s. I'm sure some of them need a little bit of buffs and tweaks here and there. But I have been noticing a few comments, quite a handful of comments saying, Conrad, even though he just got a buff not too long ago, what is it, 6 months ago or 9 months ago or something like that, he still doesn't make sense, right? He's a speed lead, which is great. He's an attack type unit though, and he does damage based on his max HP here. Does he do? He doesn't do max HP damage here, but he's an attack type unit. He does damage based on his max HP, and this is kind of similar to Harmonia. It's just Comtois did know that he needed something different. They tried to change it, and then people didn't really adopt it too much. And I feel like that kind of applies to all of these Death Knights. Could use a little something. Comtois did try to... Actually, they didn't do anything with Brian. He's got 116 base speed, though, which is crazy. Any buff to him could be potentially pretty cool if they did like a strip and attack power break. Could you imagine strip and attack power break? 116 base speed? I'm just saying. I don't know. But Arnold, Fedora, Bryant, Conrad, Diaz, like no one's really using these in the current meta. This is something that people use in like beginner R5 teams, but these guys could use like if they just did a blanket buff to all of them, like buffed a little tweak to every single one of these 5 in the family, that would actually there would be no problem there. They wouldn't really make anything. They probably would not make anything too OP by buffing all these a little bit. Now on to the Nat 5s. I know you guys thinking, Bagel, what about the other 4-star? This monster needs to get buffed, that monster needs to get buffed. Nobody uses the Wind Samurai. I know nobody uses the Wind Samurai, but there's only so much time in the day, and I already make these videos way too long, longer than they need to be. Christina, can we please, just number 1 on the list, can we? Christina's been a meme for so long. It's not that she does bad damage, and I know I've been called out on this before, but I stand with what I say, is that it's not that she does bad damage. Bagel, she does great damage. The issue is there's such a strip and control heavy and fire threats everywhere that Christina doesn't get a lot of opportunities to shine. It's not about the fact that she doesn't do enough damage. It's about the fact that any turn 2 wind unit that is an attack type unit and not an HP type unit, right? Like Ritesh turn 2 as a bruiser or Tyrannus turn 2 as a bruiser wind unit, they do just fine because they're tanky units. She's not a tanky unit. She's an attack type unit. She's a squishy DPS unit. You can use her in a shield wall cleave team, and that's basically the only place that people are using her. She's effective in that, but you can't really take that into everything. I think maybe a potential way to buff her could be something like if she takes like Garrow's passive or Theomar's passive. If she takes fatal damage, gains endure, or negates damage. I was also considering like negates damage and also increases her attack bar. But then that would just make her too OP. That would make her potentially more OP than Lydia. So, yeah. You could potentially make her too OP like that, but maybe something like negates damage, which kind of, like, makes her less squishy. Effectively, you could make her more meta if you make her less squishy, resistant to death in some way. So, add that to her passive. I feel like that may be the option. Because if they're gonna continue to make her a turn 2 cleave unit, she needs some kind of way to mitigate damage. I think that's the biggest thing. Like the Wind Monkey has a way to mitigate damage too. So I think maybe, and I've been questioning like what could make Christina meta for a while. I think maybe something like that damage mitigation, death prevention passive may actually make her see some gameplay and may actually make people warm up to her, because it's never been about her damage being bad. People, you know, they're like, Bagel, you haven't even tried her, your damage is like, no, I have a max skilled Christina, completely max skilled, ruined with like Rage Will on my main. I have another one on the account that I'm currently on. I don't know if she's max skilled or not. We just don't use her too much. She can be used if you use a Shield Will Cleave team, but there's really not too many opportunities to bring that in without her getting stripped or without a fire threat coming in and nuking her quickly. So that's kind of the issue there. But I think if she had, again, if she had some damage prevention, damage mitigation, death prevention passive, that could actually make her see some use. You know what, while we're on it, I gotta say, no one's talking about this, but I'm gonna talk about this. Buff Scarlett too. Listen, the first skill's fine. Second skill's fine. Second skill's pretty cool. Third skill, attacks the enemy with a cannon gun, weakens the defense for 1 turn, 90% chance, goes up to 100% chance, inflicts damage on all enemies, destroys their max HP by 50% of the inflicted damage. But it just defense breaks for 1 turn on 1 unit. AoE damage, but defense breaks on 1 turn, 1 unit. Can we just make this like an AoE defense break? And then we're good? That's all. That's all. AoE defense break is all I think that's all I'm asking for, really. As much as I like Camilla, I gotta say, maybe it's time Camilla needs a little bit something more. She used to be such an amazing unit. She really did not see... Did she even see that much of any buffs at any point? She's been kind of the same for quite a while. Furthermore, I think that Chow... I think I mentioned Chow in the video 3 months ago. I think Chow could use something a little bit as well. Camilla, the thing is... Camille's always been... She's nice against things that crit. She can cleanse her debuffs on her. However, there's a lot of stuff that came out lately, like, you know, since she's been meta back in the day. There's a lot of stuff that came out since then, like Lauren, like Skogel, like now Kaki and the other Onmyoujas, that are just very strong against her, right? They don't, like, these units, Lauren can just keep decreasing attack bar on Camilla. Camilla never gets a turn to even use her passive, right? Skogul can just absolutely one-shot. Kaki's not going to ever crit on Camilla. So Camilla's passive is really, only the heal comes into play, but the rest of it doesn't really come into play. So Camilla's just a relic of a later time. And she also comes with just the transmogs for Camilla. Camilla needs a, or maybe they did the transmogs because they're going to buff Camilla now. I don't know, guys. That it would be really cool to give Camilla just something more on the passive. I never really get too crazy about these Valkyries, like skill 2s. Like, a lot of the skill 2s are not really anything exciting. It's like, single target this with 1 debuff. And I'm like, that's not very exciting. Is a single target with a, I mean, I feel like you could almost buff a lot of these Valkyries, Valkyrias, skill 2s, as well as like her passive and stuff, right? So I feel like something to make her a little bit, give her a fresh coat of paint, a little polish, make her more meta, more into it at times, because she hasn't held up too well, considering considering Skogul, Kaki, things like that, and Lauren and Ajir, even things that just decrease attack gauge and just don't let her even get turns. So just a little buff to her passive of some kind to stop that from happening, to make her more in step with this new generation. Also, Trinity, I feel you, Trinity owners. I feel you. Could we please make her an attack type unit? Because this is kind of the point of all the Trinity owners. Is like, which has been relayed to me many times, is if you have Trinity and you have Samath, which do you use? Are you going to use Trinity, who's an HP type unit, but she does damage? Or are you going to use Samath, which is a damage dealing unit that does damage? They both have the same leader skill. Samath also has the extra benefit of coming back from the dead and nuking things after he comes back from the dead, which Trinity does not do. So she doesn't do the damage, she doesn't do the skill cooldowns that Samath does. She doesn't come back from the dead. Why would you use Trinity over Samath? And I feel like you probably wouldn't. I would probably just use Trinity because it's an LD5, right? I wouldn't use because she's more effective than Samath. So I feel like for that reason, this needs, and you could kind of argue that some of these units need better skill 2s just in general. Like this one, we use Vanessa, but her skill 2 is only a single target defense break, right? We just use her because the speed lead and because they're a Vive, mostly. So these skill 2s in general are not anything very exciting to write home about. This one's got, look at this, 116 base speed on these though. Crazy. But yeah, the skill 2s on all these have never been too exciting, but these in particular are the ones that are kind of the weaker of the bunch currently. I don't know if we talked about Brandia in the last video, but Brandia is kind of more of a PvE unit, right? A lot of people, like, where do you see Brandia used? You see her used in like some of the top dungeon teams, although those were kind of replaced by a lot of Tricario teams and a lot of continuous damage teams. But you are also seeing some Brandias used in some of the best dungeon runs because she does a lot of big damage with this Touch of Mercy, skill 3, and then you see her in Rift Beasts. But she's also very similar to Crow, and she's got an Arena HP leader skill. So is she for PvP or is she for PvE? Because PvE, this is great for PvE. The sleep doesn't really work in PvE, but the sleep works in PvP. And there you go, the leader skill in PvP. But you really don't see her for, like, where would you use this leader skill? For arena defense, which you never really see Brandia in arena defense. And then RTA, but you really very rarely see, I mean, I've seen Brandia in RTA, but you don't see Brandia in RTA very often. Her base stats are not bad. Her base speed is 111. But, and her leader skill is, HP is really good, but just, she's used in PvE, generally, as far as, like, the community where they're usually using her. They're not using her really for arena off. I mean, someone out there is like, I use her for arena offense. I know, I see every time. I see the comments. It's like, when I say people aren't doing this, there's like 3 people that are actually doing it, and then 10,000 that are not doing it. And the 3 people that are doing it are like, I need you to know that I'm using Brandia every single arena offense. You can. I'm just saying that she's for PvE. And then she also has stuff for PvP, but she's like not sure what she really wants to do. I would like to see a little bit more direction on Brandia. Because here's the thing. If you have a blessing, Between Tiana and Brandia, who do you pick? Tiana. If you have a blessing between Alicia and Brandia, who do you pick? Alicia. Like, both of those units are very, very strong PvP units. Brandia is like, oh, you don't pick Brandia because you can just use a crow. So that's really the reason that people aren't really, like, no one's picking her. I know someone's going to be, there's always someone that's going to be like, I picked her in a blessing over Tiana. And my response would be, oh, okay. But yeah, she's not as impactful in the current meta as she's easily replaceable is what I'm saying. She's easily replaceable. She's not as impactful in the current meta as Alicia and Tiana are. Next on list, Belial the Water Demon. So this is actually based on a lot of the comments because I kind of like this guy and he does actually see some use currently in the Belial Arena team, which has seen a lot more popularity in the past like month or two. The team of like you take Belial and Rena, the enemy kills the Belial and then takes 9,000 turns to kill the Rena. Belial pops back up and just one-shots, ignores defense on them. The thing is that people have commented about is he arrives with little HP and creates a shield proportionate to your level for one turn. It's not a very big shield and you could just kill him pretty easily after that, right? So he doesn't completely get another turn. He increases his attack bar by 100%, but there could also still be other units that get another turn before he does, and then do a little damage to the shield and kill him again before he even gets a turn to do anything. So either shield or invincibility, maybe invincibility might be a better idea than the shield, and then just an extra increase your attack bar by 100% plus whatever you had when you died. Whatever attack bar when you die. Like it saves that and then gives an extra 100% or instantly grants another turn. Revive and then instantly grants another turn. So those are two very easy, very quick fixes to Belial that would make him more effective. And I think based on their comments that I read, that was really the issue, is that the shield really doesn't do too much and things can still cut in between when he comes back and he can just get killed again. So this one's kind of me talking out my butt right now because I haven't actually tested her out firsthand. However, I am not very impressed with the Wind Onmyouji. I summoned to try to get new units, and I'm like, okay, I want a new unit, but not the Wind Onmyouji, because what am I going to even do with her? She's very pretty looking. She got the little fox thing. Very cute. I look at her skills, and I'm like, I'm not a fan. The first skill is fine. Second skill, this is the Karma, reduces the HP every time the target uses a skill with cooldown. It seems like they use their first skills more often when they have this Karma on them though, right? It feels like that's the situation. This one recovers attack bar if an enemy uses skill with cooldown time. This is kind of interesting, but I feel like she doesn't do enough with the two of these. Like this and this makes sense as a turn 2 kind of counter unit. So if they had both of these make sense together, but this I feel would need to be changed. You can have this counter. If she had like a strip and attack break on here, strip into attack break and glancing hit, like for example the Dark Chun-Li's third skill, if she had something like that for this, then she could cut in, strip, attack, power break, and glancing hit. That could be really cool. I just feel like this does not go with this necessarily. So that's kind of my situation there. I haven't played with her firsthand. I'm not very excited to, honestly. I know I'm not the only one that feels that way about her. And usually when units come out that are like, ooh, what do you, no one uses them. I mean, like Bastet, when she first came out, I was like, ooh, Bastet, yuck. She did like a provoke with skill 3, like a 2-turn provoke. It was very disappointing. Now she's so much better, right? So generally when units come out that look like this, not look like this, but that have kind of skills that are like, ooh, what do you even do with that? Generally they do tend to get buffed eventually and become very strong. Who knows when that's going to be? Who knows what the buffs are going to be? But I could absolutely see her being buffed in the future. I mean, no one's really going to use her too much with this skill set. You know, she may be one of those units that gets buffed and rebuffed and rechanged every single balance patch for a while. I kind of get that feeling from her, but yeah, I'm kind of just hoping to not summon her, which is not necessarily a great situation to be in if you're trying to get people to summon for new units. Really quickly over the Slayers again, because I know we talked about them a little bit last time. Base speed, not anything too crazy, but the base HP on these guys are pretty good, right? Wind 1 is fantastic. Love the Wind 1, no complaints there. The Light 1, aka the Light, but this also applies to the Light Bison. Light Bison owners. Don't tell me, Bagel forgot about me. Light Bison needs a buff. I saw there was a lot of people that had the Light. There are not a lot of people that have the Light Bison, but those that do have the Light Bison were complaining that they're like, he kamikazes everyone. He decreases attack power. Sorry, not decrease attack power. He absorbs the HP of everyone, just hurts them while he's, and he's also has low base speed to boot. And they're like, why does he even need to do that, absorb HP? Why can't he just increase attack bar? He already has the downside of being low speed. So just something for consideration for the Light Slayer and Light Bison. Carnal, the big thing with him, I actually like him. I use him on a regular basis. I think he's a cool unit. I think he's a fun Guild Wars unit. Some people use him for arena defense to get the arena big tanky HP leader skill. And he's kind of a fire threat. He's low speed though. Also, he's fantastic for TOA against like boss stages, right? Because he's got this CC here, and then when you get to the boss, you got attack age reduction or attack age absorb. Sorry, and then you also have the provoke here. So he's actually a pretty cool unit. I do like him. I think that this needs to be a higher activation rate. That's my only concern with that. The rest of the unit I think is actually pretty cool. I know some people think that he needs more buffs. I don't think that he needs more buffs. I have him on 2 or 3 accounts. I really like him. Do I have the Fire Bison or do I have the... I think I have both, actually. I think I have Carnal and Fire Bison. I have one on one and one on the other, something like that. But, yeah, I think he's fine. He just needs to be more activation rate. That's my only thing. This guy, I think he got more useful with that Destroy HP. I just think he needs still a little bit more, the Borg 9, right? Because he's a brand new Nat 5. This guy, perfectly fine. This guy, I think people are pretty happy with him in general. I mean, I've seen him steal some matches, like just to go crazy, right? Go crazy nanners. You can't bring him into everything, but the places that you can bring him in and actually get his crazy cycling off, because he basically he provokes and then the provoked unit hits him. He gets another turn, he provokes it again, and so on and so on and so on. It gets a little crazy. So again, this is the same as the Dark Bison. So when you actually get him in and working in a team, he can basically dominate as long as you actually start getting the combo off. Then it's an unstoppable combo, right? It just takes a little bit to actually get it running. So that's my thoughts on those for these. Wind 1 is perfectly fine. He's a fantastic unit though. Here we go, guys. The controversial part. Now on to LD5s, because everyone's like, my LD5 needs to get buffed. Not all LD5. Nephthys doesn't need to get buffed, guys. Gianna doesn't need to get buffed. There's a lot of those LD5s. The Yenhong doesn't need to get buffed. There's a lot of them that don't need to get buffed. I'm sorry to disappoint you. I know you know where the dislike button is, and you're not afraid to use it. I know. Jara, this one, really cool in the Light Rift Beast. Also pretty cool in like some Guild Wars that have like revive things, right? Basically the thing is the Fire Path passive. These a branding effect for 2 turns, weakens defense for 2 turns with a 50% chance when you attack an enemy. When you defeat an enemy during your turn, the enemy can't be revived during the battle. So it's very situational though. Low base speed and very situational. It'd be cool to use Jara a little bit more. Maybe if she even revived like Aperna, that would be, you think that'd be too OP if she revived like Aperna? I mean, it is a Phoenix, right? You could easily just put that as part of the passive. I think actually, I mean, also, this resistance leader skill, at least Perna has an attack power leader skill, which is very meta too, at least for those dungeons. You don't use Perna for like, giants and dragons and anything. That used to be back in the day. Whatever. This is not back in the day. This is now. So the leader skill is basically pointless garbage. If Jara had a revive, that would kind of make up for the... Also, Perna has a higher speed. So we're kind of thinking about, like, Perna's got a higher speed, plus the revive, plus a better leader skill. Jara's an LD5, and Jara's like, okay, I can prevent death. Also, defense break and brand, but it's just Jara needs a little something more. If she revived, I think that may be the easiest way to fix Jara. So, what do you guys think? What do you guys think? Even though she's got still low base speed and the bad leader skill. Or you could give her a good leader skill. Safdie's leader skills in the game, like the Beast Monks and stuff like that, really don't make a whole lot of sense. I know I complained about the Beast Monks in the last one. People were like, they're good, you can still use them. Like, I don't think that was really my complaint. My complaint with the Beast Monks was just their leader skills are wrong. That was the big thing, because their leader skills are dungeon leader skills, and they really should be they're really not supposed to be dungeon units. They're really units that are supposed to be for PvP. So if Beast Monks had a Guild War leader skill, that would be fantastic. That would be game changing for the Beast Monks. So this next one I'm kind of conflicted about. Like, I agree with it, but I also disagree with it at the same time. Like, Laura, the light occult girl, is pretty good. She's got a skill 1, she sleeps. She's got a skill 2, AoE stun, just like the other ones, right? Just like Charlotte, just like Rico. And then she's got a skill 3, Light Guardian Angel, triple hit, strip, and then defense buff. It's not even a super reliable chance to strip, especially if they have multiple beneficial effects. But then the defense buff comes in after that, and I think the point that maybe some people, because there have been a decent amount of people that have commented on this and like, what about Laura? Laura should be on here. Laura should be on here. And I also hear it in Twitch chat a lot. I'm like, is Laura really that bad? I never really thought of her as a bad unit. But I think people, the biggest comment or the biggest complaint is that, number one, it's not very reliable. Because you don't know if it's actually going to strip everything or not. It may just miss and miss and miss and miss. But then again, it's the same situation with like the fire can and the water Ryu and things like that, right? Where it's like it may work, it may not, or even Chiwu at that, at that rate, right? But I think one of the concerns that they have is you're stripping these things and then you buff your defense. So what's the point of buffing your defense after you strip those things? Like, if you strip in those things, wouldn't you want to like do harmful effects to them instead of buffing the defense? Like stripping and then attack break, or stripping and then glancing hit. No one cares about glancing. Strip and then stun. Strip and then, something else, right? It's not even a reliable strip. And then you come in with a defense buff, and what is the point of the defense buff? Like, how are you supposed to combo this? Like, this Comtuous probably doesn't know how you're supposed to combo this. Like, what was the intent of where this unit is supposed to be used? Like, you strip into a defense buff, and then what? What comes in after that? If you're defense buffing, like, what defense-based DPS units are you going to use with there? Are you going to use Copper or Bulldozer? Well, then you don't need the strip, right? If you're going to use Copper or Bulldozer. If you're going to strip, you're going to want to control things. So it would make more sense for this to be a strip into a debuff instead of strip into a buff skill. You know what I mean? So I think maybe that's one of the things that they're commenting on. Like, Laura doesn't make sense, and she should make more sense by strip into a debuff instead of just strip into a team buff. What was the point of this strip then, right? So I think that's kind of one of the things for her. But yeah, there's been enough people that have commented about Laura, both in the videos, that one video that I mentioned 3 months ago, and also live streams and things like that. They're like, what do I do with Laura? I don't even know what to do with Laura. Another one that a lot of you guys have commented about, a lot of the Nigang owners, and I try to, when you guys comment about it, when you guys like complain about a thing is not very good, needs a buff, I kind of try to put myself in your shoes. I do that a lot. I feel like all of us as human beings should do that more, put ourselves in each other's shoes to kind of understand what other people are thinking. So I put myself in the shoes of a Nigang owner, and I'm like, okay, what would I get excited to use this for? Do I use it for dungeons? No. Do I use it for, like, you're not going to use it for dungeons, right? Generally, these Nat 5s and especially LD 5s should be really great PvP units, just generally speaking, because they're LD 5. They're super shiny. That's kind of the point in these gacha games in general, not even just in this one, right? So, okay, do I use it in Guild Wars offense? Not really. It's not a very exciting offensive unit to use. Do I use it in Guild War defense? Yeah, sure, I could use it in Guild War defense. Do I use it for arena offense? No, you don't use this for arena offense. Do I use it for arena defense? Yeah, you could use this for arena defense. Do I use it for RTA? Nah, it's not really a thing really too much for RTA. Maybe once in a blue moon, once in like 100 matches you pull him out and he's actually pretty decent. But the thing is, with Nigang, he is a very boring unit to use. Sometimes he's effective, but he's a very boring unit to use. He has an AoE revive, and then he has a soul protection, right? So effectively, he's got an HP leader skill. So effectively, it's not that exciting of a unit. You're like, hey, I got an LD5. Cool, I'm going to have all this fun playing with him. Oh, never mind. never mind. We take a look at like a lot of these other ones, right? You could use these for like you could use this aggressively, offensively. This the Chiwu. You could use Wunsa is very similar to Chiwu. You could use him aggressively and offensively. These two are very meta. This Wusa, you know, there's a lot of strips nowadays, but you can definitely use Wusa. People use Wusa all the time for a lot of stuff. Pungbek even is a very aggressive. He's a fun unit to use. He's got this basic. This is so nice to hit against Mihos too, because it just I mean, you don't target Mihos, it's just the splash damage hits Mihos, splash damage hits Camillas and things like that, and they just fall over. And then you get to Nigang, and he's just not a very fun unit to use. You get this monster, if you get lucky enough to get him as a Nat 5, and you're like, oh, cool, I'll stick him on defense. And there we go. And that's where you use the Nat 5. So I think it would be nice to have. I feel like this is kind of the issue with a lot of revive units in general, is that they're just not very fun things to even build or use, especially as aggressive as the meta has gotten over the years. We gotta stop this list somewhere. Those are just some of the ones that I feel need to get buffed. I know a lot of the LD5 owners are like, no, this one, you didn't talk about the one that I have that needs to get buffed. I mean, we could break out the Geldnir situation. We could talk about maybe Volantis needs a higher activation rate or higher speed. We could talk about, I mean, some of these other ones, like this one's kind of awesome now. This one's kind of awesome now. Some of these are kind of awesome now. Some of the other, the dark ones actually need some more tweaks. Like, I don't know if I'd be super excited. I would probably play with Nigang. He's at least fun-ish to use, but I'm going to be super excited about him. Veramos is going to get a buff. I think it's probably going to be in this patch since they already mentioned it. I don't know what it's going to be, but we should see a Veramos buff here as well. What else? I know people complain about this Grogan. I personally would love a Grogan, so I don't know. I don't know about that. I mean, I don't have one. Maybe I would feel differently if I had one. This one I could see definitely getting a... I mean, he's okay for, like, Guild Wars, but really, like, for Guild War Bruisers, but really, it's an LD5. He should be better for stuff aside from that. Manananan, some people kind of in two different ways about the Manananan. Some people like to use him, some people don't. I could see him getting a buff. If I got him, I'd probably want a buff. That's kind of how I feel about the situation, but I don't have him, so... I don't know. I mean, I still want to see... I got wrecked by her so many times this week that I shouldn't want to see an Alexandra buff. But I just wish she had a strip, right? I wish... Or a defense break. Strip or a defense break. Either one would be perfect. It's kind... But then she'll be too OP. That might be too OP if she has a strip or a defense break. But... I'll be totally happy with either a strip or a defense break. Either one of those. I would use her so much. I think that she needs it less, though. To be honest, I'm just going to try to be as fair as possible. I think that Alexandra needs less of a buff than something like the Bay or something like Geldnir. Again, Geldnir. It always comes back to Geldnir. But Geldnir got a buff in the last patch. I just feel like I'm not that excited about him. What do you guys feel about Geldnir now? Honestly, I'm not very excited about the Geldnir. Who else did we say that we mentioned earlier? I don't even remember who we mentioned earlier. Oh, Jara. Yeah, I feel like honestly, I feel like kind of Jara and Geldnir and stuff like that need it the most. I still feel like Geldnir needs more, but maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm alone in that. But anyway, you could argue all day that some other things need buffs too. I'm just trying to go over the ones that I think maybe the most may need buffs the most. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below. You guys can yell about everything again. I know you guys, you yell about everything. But that's how I've taught you. I've taught you by example to yell about everything. So what do I expect you to do? Anyway, that's it for this one. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see what actually gets changed in the next balance patch. I think there's still some more 4-stars also that need some tweaks and some works and could use some new things. So we'll see. It's probably going to be another buff to something that random that doesn't need it, that already got 12 buffs in the past. Like, do you really need to buff that again? It's going to be like, Ciara does 2 bombs now. Like, oh, God. At least I own Ciara, so I'm happy with that. Anyway, that would be way too strong. Anyway, that's it for this one. I'll see you guys always in the next one.